Well, welcome everybody. Welcome in. Good morning, good day, good afternoon. My name is Jeffrey Lauer, and I'm joined by my colleague Peggy Reicher to give a kind of an annual state of the state and update about what the good, the bad, not so ugly over the last 12 months and what we have planned for the next year. For the United States Brain Injury Alliance. Thank you so much for joining us. You know, just in terms of getting our feet wet, a couple of housekeeping issues. There's a chat function down in the bottom, hopefully people's screens. And so please feel free to use that and put questions or comments in there. As I'm speaking, Peggy will monitor that and she'll be totally free to interrupt me if there's something that I've misspoken on or people want clarification. And then Peggy's going to take the second part of this presentation to talk about the next steps, as she is now the current chair of the United States Brain Injury Alliance, and I am past chair. So the big picture for USBIA, our vision is that all persons with a brain injury thrive in their community. And our mission is that we want to build, we're building state and national capacity to create a better future alongside individuals affected by brain injury. The three values that we strive to hold to, and so far we hold each other accountable as well as ourselves, are integrity, excellence, and collaboration. And that's kind of the foundation for when we have to ask ourselves questions about getting involved with different organizations or taking funds from organizations for specific projects, which we try to come back to our core values. And so far, since 2012, it's been one of the defining characteristics of the United States Brain Injury Alliance. And it was one of the reasons that we were founded, is to be very consistent in our values. We've had everybody has had an interesting couple of years. This last year, no less of a roller coaster for folks who are members of the United States Brain Injury Alliance at the state level and or the national board. The pandemic has been interesting. I had a colleague tell me recently that his strategic plan the last couple of years has been to survive another year to be able to make the next strategic plan. That's not where we're at right now. In fact, Peggy's going to talk about quite an ambitious and cogent strategic plan here in the second half. I'd be remiss if I didn't give great thanks to Peggy for stepping up as being willing to be the chair of the United States Brain Injury Alliance over the next 2 years, and for Rita Steinelberger from New Jersey for maintaining her role as an officer and as the treasurer of the board, and for our colleague David King from Minnesota, who stepped forward as a past president of USBIA, is an officer and also the secretary, as well as our board members who have shown great leadership over the years and continue to. Gavin Atwood from Colorado, Carrie Collins Fidel from Arizona, Dr. Alina Fong from Utah, Barbara Geiger Parker, Washington, Janice Meagle from Iowa, Maria Schultes from Pennsylvania, Dr. Maria Schultes, Marilyn Price Spivak is an emeritus board member, and Michelle Sugarman, Dr. Sugarman is from Utah as well. And they have been instrumental. We had a number of retirements in terms of term that came up, and we've lost some really tremendous supporters, but we're hoping to retain them on committees. So this last year, much of our effort has been, the powerhouse of our effort has been in our committees. There are three main committees that have driven, I think, activity, success, and mission. And one of the reasons we're going through this is that my board, I'm the executive director of the Brain Injury Alliance of Iowa. And historically, there are members of my board and perhaps other member state boards, and also individuals who ask, what are they doing? And so we want to tell you what we're doing. Margaret, can you mute folks? Is that possible?
Yep.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that when the dogs bark, we're okay. I'm going to start with the communications committee. Peggy's been the chair of that. Peggy Reischer's been chair of that this last year and for a period of time. The goal of the committee has been to try to build and to succeed and build positive relationships through consistent communication from USBIA. As such, there's been a newsletter and regular educational webinars. There were 4 this last year, February, May, August, and November, and they're archived at the usbia.org website. In any of this discussion that we're having today, please feel free to email us questions or comments at info@usbia.org. If you don't want to put it in the chat today, comes to you later after this webinar, you can email us at info@usbia.org. But in addition to the educational efforts, the Communications Committee has been focused on BI Awareness Month. And that's been consistent for a number of years. And in fact, there's a plan for March of this spring, which is brain injury A through Z, which with each day of the month representing a different letter. For example, I believe A, the first day, is acquired brain injury. And there will be both written and imagery available for our state members to put up to, again, bring attention to the scope, breadth, and diversity of brain injury, acquired and traumatic. Our Membership and Development Committee has been led by David King, with membership from Deb Crawley from Washington State, and myself from Iowa. And the membership committee really has stood in a situation where we're able to respond to and do outreach to our member states. We have 15 member states around the country, and those include Arizona, Colorado, and you can find those on the website as I'm looking to very quickly here because I can't read them off the top of my head. I'll do that in a second. I had that page open, but so it goes. I'll come back to it in a second. Here we go. No, I don't. Sorry. You're right, Peggy. I wasn't prepared enough. The membership committee also has offered scholarships for each member organization to attend the National Association of State Head Injury Administrators SOS conference this last year. And although it was a virtual event, not only was it a good networking opportunity, it's a great educational opportunity. The Public Policy Committee has ramped up it's kind of turbocharged. It's great. This last fall, they hosted an educational series for members of the Congressional Brain Injury Task Force, which sits in DC and focuses on the authorization of the TBI Act, as well as funding for the Department of Defense for brain injury and bringing attention to brain injury across the United States federal agencies. The aim of that was to help members of Congress understand the major impacts of brain injury on the communities that they represent, as well as the impact of the pandemic, the COVID pandemic on the community. The Public Policy Committee partnered with a resource facilitation work group we have that you or staff of other member organizations, member states of USBIA could join, which focuses on the long-term impact of COVID. It's quite clear from the medical literature that COVID-19 in 10 to 40% of people who've had it, whether it was mild, moderate, or severe, whether it was Alpha, Delta, or Omicron, have some long-term issues or sometimes disabilities after COVID-19, many of which are neurologically not based necessarily, but they manifest as neurological changes And there's a fair amount of research trying to figure out what the cause is, the etiology, as well as what both treatments, medical treatments, as well as helping people, which is our kind of in our neck of the woods now, long-term services and supports, helping people accommodate and adapt to changes in their lives. We had a presentation by Missy Bird, who was a person with a brain injury, cast member of the CBS show Survivor. And she asked our community, and we ask you again to remind all of us to elevate the stories of underserved, minority, and groups of persons with color with brain injury. We give special thanks to Jeff Nakbar and Tom Grady from Minnesota and New Jersey alliances, respectively, who provided a coaching session for advocates on how to tell stories and effectively interact with elected officials. Again, these webinars are archived on our website. You're welcome to look at them, as is this webinar, which will be archived. And we would invite you to share this with your board of directors if you're a member state, or with any other colleagues that might wonder, what the heck do those guys do? Looking ahead on the policy front, our Public Policy Committee has been cooking with gas. They've got some specific goals for this next year that Peggy may expand on, but it includes having each of our states engage a representative of the Congressional Brain Injury Task Force and seek to get their federally elected officials in the House to join the CBITF, the Congressional Brain Injury Task Force, and to engage with those offices at least twice a year. And we're going to provide the information and support that they would need to talk cogently about what the big picture public policy issues are, while not prescribing that they only talk about those things, because all politics are local. So it makes sense to drive home the messages from the specific states of our state affiliates. The relationships that they're looking to engage in also is to ensure that the staff of the Congressional Brain Injury Task Force members understand our focus on brain injury and where it's been in the past in terms of incidence and prevalence, and where it looks to be emerging and expanding in a COVID, a time of pandemic from COVID-19. Reauthorization of the TBI Act is on the radar screen. That happens in 2024. And then the Administration on Community Living is the federal agency that is engaged with and designated by the feds to distribute the funds from the TBI Act through the federal grantee program and other programs of special significance, and to continue to engage ACL to make sure they keep the eye on the ball. They've had a lot of changes. Finally, and the last thing I'll posit here for our public policy as we broaden those scopes is that we want to engage with broader disability conversations. The plan is to engage with the mental health community, substance abuse community, as many people with brain injury don't show up just with brain injury. They show up with multi-occurring disorders. Again, great thanks to Carrie Collins Fidel from Arizona, who's the chair of that committee, as well as her colleagues, Jeff Nakbar and Tom Grady, I think is the co-chair, who helped move that forward. And a special shout out to Shanna Mays and Will Grove, who've just joined the committee. Of any of these committees, if any of you, doesn't matter who you are, interested in becoming a informal to test the water and or formal member of one of USBIA's committees, again, please drop us a line at info@usbia.org. It's a great way to get involved. Many hands make for lighter work, and we'd really appreciate that. In terms of looking back over the last year, and I'll finish up here in about 5 minutes, Peggy. We've gone through, and Peggy may talk a little bit about this, but I want to point out some highlights. Many of the strengths and opportunities, as well as some threats that we see ahead of us. And it's not just the same, it's not just with USBIA, but I think it's with many of our states and with the brain injury community at large. Our strengths are that we have many leaders within the brain injury community. And we would invite you, if you're interested, in engaging USBIA more closely, again, please drop us an email, drop Peggy or myself a note, put your name in the chat. I want more information. And we would love to be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with you. We've got longevity and experience in our state programs. We've got some incredibly strong state programs in our states, and some that are still working to grow to a point where they can have impact in a statewidedness framework. Many dedicated chapters and chapter leaders, and if that's what you've done in your time volunteering or working with brain injury, thank you, because there are probably, well, there's no less than 500 chapters, chapter leaders, and or support groups around the country. They've taken a hit meeting face-to-face with COVID, but they are instrumental in people navigating their journey to new normal. We've got a collaborative spirit and a focus on our mission and values that is independent of external for-profit influences. So we don't pay to play with the United States Brain Injury Alliance. We have managed to move forward with a much stronger voice this last year, a more unified voice in our communications with federal partners, both the Centers for Disease Control, the Administration on Community Living, and with Congress. And again, hats off to our Public Policy Committee for increasing the visibility of people with brain injury and their needs. We're working with other organizations, Epilepsy Foundation, brain tumor organizations, rehab psychology, who have overlapping interests to collaborate more broadly. And we really have taken a look, and we're continuing to dig in and provide resources to our states on the emerging impact of cognitive disorders from COVID-19. And probably one of the biggest threats we see is long haul COVID. It's quite clear that in the immediacy of the acute reaction to COVID-19, our healthcare system has taken a hit. It's bogged down right now nationally. And I'm not trying to be political about this at all. It's just, I think this is the public health fact, is that there are more people being hospitalized because there are more people getting infected. Fortunately, they're not as sick and they're not dying, but the healthcare system is still bogged down with the acute phase of COVID. And long haul COVID, it's already there. It's already happening. And if we don't get involved, we won't be able to be a support for people with brain injury from long haul COVID. So we're engaging and trying to learn what are the rehab techniques and supports that are evidence-based, best practices, promising practices that can have an impact. And we're always looking for interested parties to join us in leadership positions. So, you know, without much more ado, I know Peggy has been, and again, it's our great good fortune to have had her lead our strategic planning process in 2021 to put us in a place where we're looking forward for the next few years. And Peggy, may I turn this over to you?
Yes, you sure can. Thank you so much, Jeff. And thank you for your leadership this last couple of years as the chair. You've done an amazing job, and I'll be the first to say I've learned a lot from you. So thank you for your leadership on this throughout these last couple of years. What I want to share with you guys, and I'm going to do is share my screen, is just the strategic plan that committee members had put together this last fall. And I think as somebody who is coming in to be leading USBIA, I'm like, I need a plan. I want to be able to understand where we're going and how are we going to get there. And so grateful for the rest of the board to join me in that mission to make that happen. What I have here is just kind of why is it important to complete a strategic plan, and feel like I'm preaching to the choir a little bit because I know several of you were a part of our strategic planning efforts, but really to kind of help set the stage, it helps set a strong foundation for growth. It gives us kind of a path to follow. It helps us prioritize where we're going, and it also helps us stay in our lane so we aren't all over the place going, oh, well, there's a brilliant idea, let's go travel that direction, and then get way off course for what we really are needing to do. It also, I think you'll find as I share this strategic plan with you, it really provides a clear and concise plan. My plan as the chair will be that this will be brought up in all of our executive or all of our board meetings, so that we're all paying attention and going, how are we doing with what we said we were going to do? And if we're off, if we're not meeting our goals, why is it that we're not doing it? Was it too lofty? Where do we go? But I really do anticipate that this is something that's not going to just sit on the shelf and collect dust, but a working plan that we will grow with, and it'll help direct us where we're going. It also helps outline the big things we're going to do. It helps keep us all on the same page. And it also helps us tackle some of those opportunities and challenges that will help make us a better organization in the future. This was our amazing strategic planning committee, folks that committed to 3 long days. I think all of our meetings were on the order of, well, they were between 3 and 5 hour webinar meetings to work together as a committee. We also had subcommittees break apart. So I really want to say a special shout out to all of those who were part of the planning committee, because it did take a lot of time. It took a lot of devotion and a lot of finagling. I think there was a lot of brainstorming that happened, but you got to then kind of whittle it down. Okay, what's doable, what's measurable? And we did that all under the leadership of our consultant and facilitator, Cindy Grubenhoff from In the Know out of Know LCC, or excuse me, LLC. She came to us from Colorado, and I know she had done some strategic planning already for programs like BIA of Colorado. So for that, we were very thankful. Jeff already kind of hit the mission and vision and values that USBIA has set forth. It was I found this an interesting conversation, because we actually shifted our vision. Well, I think we never had a vision actually put in place. So the strategic planning process did get us to a spot where we were actually created our vision. Throughout the strategic planning process, we also did a stakeholder survey and asked people, as stakeholders, how do you feel like we're meeting our mission? Are we on track? Are there things that are off about it? And actually, based on that stakeholder feedback, we made some changes to the mission, which is what you have here in front of you today. It was a nice process to help us kind of reevaluate, what are we trying to accomplish? And I feel like in the end, we've really come up with something that's a better reflection of what we as an organization are trying to accomplish than what we had originally created. And Jeff has talked, a few times now already just about the values and how important those are in moving us forward as an organization too. So with the strategic plan, each committee had sat down and decided, okay, what is it that we want to accomplish? The strategic plan is a 3-year plan. And what I'm going to share with you here today is really just our 1-year goals. These are the things that we're hoping to accomplish in 2022. And hopefully you will, as interested parties, you'll see this come out of USBIA over the course of this next year. There is the entire strategic plan the full 3-year strategic plan is on the USBIA website. And thank you to Margaret and Colleen and Chaz for getting that posted. It's under the About section. So if you want to see the whole entire plan, take a peek at that at a later time. But what I'll hit for you here is just the highlights. So as the communications committee, things that we talked about wanting to do is make sure that state leaders and members have increased opportunity to interact with each other. And our plan is to do this through some roundtable discussions, i.e. otherwise known as just Zoom meetings these days. And we'll be providing those a couple times a year. And that'll get state leaders, executive directors, presidents, CEOs, whatever you might call yourself in that state, a chance to kind of look at what are some emerging matters that are going on in across the United States and what can we do to learn from each other. It just gets the conversation going. We also will be providing 4 webinars in 2022. And all of those are already scheduled. And I believe Colleen and Margaret already have those posted up on the website. And we'll be sending out notices for when to register for those webinars throughout the course of the year. Our plan also is to increase our social media presence, but really trying to do a better job highlighting what are the states doing and what is USBIA doing. So it'll be more of some original content, and our committee is trying to pull together the different leaders within each, or communications folks within each state to be a part of that discussion so that we can have them more aware that they're needing to funnel some stuff to USBIA if they would like it to be encouraged or to be promoted throughout the entire United States. We also are looking at increasing our USBIA visibility nationally through collaboration. We've got the Awareness Day Toolkit, and also looking at distributing our annual report at the end of the year. The governance committee's focus will be on just continuing to maintain an engaged working board. One of the goals of this committee was to recruit at least 1 individual from each member state to serve on some committee. So we've got a handful of committees, and we'd like to see, the goal would be at least 1 person from each state participate in at least a committee of some sort. Also, they'll be updating committee descriptions. They'll be updating the job descriptions for the board, and as well as creating one for an emeritus board. Also be identifying candidates for the board of trustees. We've got a few gaps in we'll be bringing on some new board members, and they'll be the ones to figure out who is it that, what's the demographic, what's the type of person we're needing to help make us a more well-rounded board. Our membership committee will be expanding external membership constituencies and just updating the membership table and incorporating membership categories. And as I sit here and talk, if any of the committee chairs for any of these committees want to chime in and expand on what it is that I'm mentioning, please feel free to do so. So I will not be offended if you interrupt. So our executive committee, overall, we decided it would be good to facilitate some financial stability of membership organizations. How can we as an organization do a better job helping our members organizations become financially viable? And what are some other funding sources that we're not utilizing as a USBIA? So there's a small group of folks that are willing to kind of dive in and look for those opportunities and then be able to report that back to our member organizations, our member states. Public Policy Committee, as Jeff already mentioned, they are an ambitious group. As we were putting together this strategic plan, we're like, holy Toledo, you guys got a lot of goals. they also were incredibly confident that this is a committee that's going to make this all happen. So they want to, as Jeff mentioned, strengthen that current relationship between the Congressional Brain Injury Task Force members and their local BIAs. So identifying, who's on the Congressional Brain Injury Task Force, and then asking or offering up and creating some talking points so that people aren't going, okay, so I know who I'm supposed to talk to, but what am I supposed to say to them? This Public Policy Committee will help develop those talking points so that we're all kind of speaking the same language and go in the same direction. And we also want to make sure that those co-chairs are really aware of our recruitment efforts and knowing the need to be engaging with our members. Another goal of the Public Policy Committee was to instigate partnerships with other brain injury agencies around shared issues and common goals. And again, Jeff kind of alluded to this too, is looking at what are some of the other disability groups that are also working on legislation that impacts individuals with brain injury, and how can we bring them to the public policy table. And then also actively engage with our administration of community living. Another goal here, as you can see, is regular communication with all affiliates with public policy priorities and actions. So as the Public Policy Committee is identifying calls to action, they'll be able to share those with the member states and make sure that we're all on the same page and saying the same thing to our senators and our representatives. So as I mentioned, the full strategic plan is available on the website. Jeff had alluded to this also, but if anybody on this call, or if you know of others within your state that would be interested in joining any of these committees to help us work on this group, it is certainly appreciated. And we, I know as the chair of the Communications Committee, very, very thankful for the newer members that we have. We have a new one from Minnesota and a new one from Arizona. We have folks from New Jersey and Colorado. And it really is heartwarming just to see that this inspirational ideas that they bring to the committee and help us be a better group. I'm a social worker by trade, so I'm like, how in the heck did I become the chair of the Communications Committee when the whole word of social media just kind of like makes me go, huh? But thankfully, we got members on the committee that get it and are going to help us as an organization grow. So for that, I'm very, very grateful and thankful. And if any of you have extra talents in time to share with the USBIA, I know all of us committee chairs always appreciate it, getting extra help. So with that, I'm just curious, do folks have any questions for either Jeff or I? We've still got some time. Or if any of the other board members want to chime in about other things that they're aware of that's going on, or that they'd like to add, certainly unmute yourself and share.
Yeah, I do want to follow up on my faux pas in terms of recognizing that the states of Arizona, Iowa, Colorado, Connecticut, Idaho, Minnesota, Montana, Nebraska, New Jersey, New Mexico, Oklahoma, Texas, Utah, and Washington are members of United States Brain Injury at this point, and we're open to broader membership. So if interested, info at usbia.org.
And I also just want to say a special shout out to MCC. Both Margaret and Colleen and Chaz have been amazing to keep us organized and help lead, make sure our meetings happen when they need to happen, and the webinars and everything. So again, shout out to those three for doing amazing behind the scenes work. Very much appreciated. Well, if there's no other questions or comments, we'll give you back about 35 minutes of your day. Thank you again, all of you, for participating here today. And Jeff, a special shout out to you, and thanks for your leadership the last couple of years. And I'm glad that you get to still be that past chair that'll be still providing a lot of guidance. And thank you for that.
Happy for the service. For those of you who are board members of our membership states, please feel free to either play this recording at a board meeting. It's only 35 minutes. It gives a flavor for what USBIA is doing. It answers the question, what the heck are they doing? What are we getting for are we getting bang for the buck? And so I hope you are. I think you are. And have a tremendous day.
Peggy and Jeff, with your permission, I am a board chair of the Brain Injury Alliance of Iowa. And I would really encourage those of you who don't maybe have the bandwidth to come on a committee or come on the board, have your board chair come on a committee or come on the board. It's not just dependent upon just your CEOs or your executive directors, whatever your title may be in your state. I have been on this board now, and I'm with these unbelievably intelligent and wonderful people to work with. I think that it would help a board chair to understand what goes on behind the scenes to help brain injury do better within our 16 member states. So think about it. If you don't have the bandwidth to do it, you all must have boards. Have your board chair come on. So that would be my 2 cents. And my other 2 cents is that we'd like to have on the, and I'm never shy, we'd like to have at least one member of every of the 16 states to work on our legislative committee. We need all 16 states represented in our legislative committee. I represent Iowa for Jeff. You know, if Jeff's not on, I'm on. But please think about 2 things. One, it could be a board chair, or even could be a board member that really loves being involved with politics. Get somebody to represent your state from the 16 members. And thank you and Happy New Year.
That's a good shout out, Janice. Nicely done. All right. Anybody else? All right. Well, hearing none. Again, thank you all, and yes, Happy New Year. I guess we still can say that. We're still in January. Thank you. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.